Okay. Welcome to the Trailer Punk Podcast. My name is Justin Hamline, and today I have Lars Larsen from the Undoing of David Wright and various other projects, which we'll go into. How you doing today?
I'm all right. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Is there any plugs that you want to, get out there before we get started or anything?
Not really, no.
No? Okay. Do you want me to put your I guess is it the LRX the email address in there? LZX, that's what it was. LZX. Can we get the email in there for like
Sure.
description or whatever?
I'm just here to hang out.
All right, sounds good, man. Hey, sounds great. Cool, man. All right, well, thank you for being on. You grew up in Graham, Texas in the mid 80s. What was that like for you?
Well, kind of weird. I was homeschooled growing up, so I it wasn't in a super religious way, but it would definitely kind of like started me and my siblings' lives out as kind of like outsiders. I think that's something that kind of carried through my life. It was pretty idyllic, like neighborhood bicycles, jousting on bicycles, trying to build boats that sink, that kind of thing. um, um, I was really into my local library and spent a lot of time there. And yeah, it's there was a high priority placed on like learning and play, and it was a good childhood.
No, it was kind of because me and my brother were like that. My parents would instead of like dropping us at a mall, it would just be like drop us off at the library. We would read a lot of books. We would rent, movies and stuff, mostly the old stuff. So that's why we kind of got into like the older horror and everything like that. And I remember there, I started, they had a magazine section and they had Fangoria, which is completely like beyond me to think that they would have some, Fangoria like in a library.
Yeah.
But I would always just I would check them out, and then the funny thing is, my mom, she was again, we grew up in a heavy religious like that, but she wouldn't check what we have at the library. Oh, what are the kids gonna rent something terrible? Well, no. So it was
The-
a lot of Dracula, Frankenstein, anything that was horror based. We were just so obsessed with, and it was so believe me, I totally understand what you're talking about with the library.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, every Atlantis and Bigfoot documentary I probably watched 50 times. And, you know, um, the the paranormal sections of the library. And yeah, you were right. Your parents didn't really care what you got from the library because growing up in the 80s, 90s, it was during the Satanic Panic. Every parent, and they didn't even have to be super religious, was on edge about like what content their kids were going to consume.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. Was there anything that was music wise, were you listening to anything that kind of helped you transition or to become who you were in The Undoing of David Wright?
Well, like I guess, as a child, I wasn't, I mean, I took piano lessons and, didn't really care about piano. So it was kind of something that I was just another school lesson kind of thing.
Of course.
And I mean, I listened to oldies and big band and that kind of stuff, musicals from my family. My grandfather was a big musical fan, and my dad was a big musical fan. So there was a lot of that. Um, Church singing groups, singing camps, that kind of thing. Um, singing at summer camps, and that was all very much a part of my life growing up.
No, I get it.
Um,
We were in like we would be basically forced into doing the church pageantries like for Christmas and stuff like that.
oh yeah,
A lot of that was, we got involved in singing and we were kind of like, okay, what instrument do you want to learn to play? And so I started doing drums. So I could see where you're like kind of like it's the small baby steps, you know what I mean? Where it's like you kind of go into it going, oh, okay, but then all of a sudden it's like it kind of translates as you grow older, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I can kind of see that. What kind of influenced you into dabbling into electronics? Kind of because for me, I loved messing with electronics. The one thing that I was obsessed with, it was from Radio Shack, and it was a 50 and 1 electrics board.
Hmm.
And you would have a bunch of wires, different sizes, different colors, and it would come with a guidebook. And it would be like,
Hmm.
okay, look, hook this wire here, hook it here, hook it here. And if you press this button, boop, 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 or you can have like a lightning, like a light bulb, and all this. You can make your own little, AM radio kind of thing. So, did you have anything like that when you were growing up, where it was like,
Um, I mean, I was into PCs early on. I think my first electronics projects were like, um, building my first computer and modifying things. I didn't really get into designing electronics till after college, I think. So it was, and that was definitely because with Undoing, um, I programmed the drum machine
yeah,
as
I got that in
kind
my
of
notes. Yeah, couldn't tell me about it.
did did vocals. So like, I think after college, I was married and I wasn't going out as much. I wanted like, a hobby that I can invest in. So I decided to make my own drum machine. And that's kind of where all of that started.
Kind of cool. No, that's great. Just because I know that's kind of when I started. I did a little bit of music a little bit after 2008, and again with the Undoing of David Wright, Femme Fatalité. Brad says hi, by the way.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say the
Yeah,
same.
he told me to tell you what's up. And the Zomzoms, those were kind of my building blocks when I was kind of looking into music on MySpace. And it was kind of at that time where I was like trying to figure out musically where do I want to go. I had like the Faint and Joy Electric and stuff like that were kind of introducing me to analog synthesizers and stuff. And the Undoing of David Wright was one of those major steps forward for me. So, when I started working on, I still have my microcord here that I got from
Nice.
for a synthesizer, and it's still one of those that it was just one of those things where you guys were kind of my building blocks into moving forward for me musically. You know what I mean?
That's
So
cool.
I appreciate it. Were you in any other bands before the Undoing of David Wright?
Oh yeah. So there was a whole Christian hardcore phase
What
before
was it?
that.
What band was that? I gotta know the name
Um,
of that.
so I was in a band called Paris from ages like 17 to 19, I think. So it was Fort Worth, um, um, with a few other guys that I had met at the door in Fort Worth.
I
Um,
figured.
and that was because we moved from Graham to Fort Worth when I was 14 or so,
Yeah,
13 or 14, and obviously a much bigger place,
definitely.
bigger churches,
Uh-huh.
and that was really interesting. I guess that would have been like 1999, 98,
Mhm.
2000.
Oh yeah, big old Christian punk movement or hardcore or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it was big and it was good because there were multiple venues where all ages were welcome, and same kind of thing as the library. Your parents didn't go care if you were seeing punk and metal shows at a Christian venue, you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
Um, so I got it in my head to start like that I wanted to be up on stage and start playing music, and so I had met these guys at a show that needed a bassist, and then learned bass pretty
Yeah.
quickly, and we were pretty, I don't know, we were unpolished, but like
It's
it
all
was
it's all
good.
it's all baby steps, building blocks that transitions you forward, I
Yeah.
guess. So, yeah.
I mean, I was definitely the like nerd in the band. And because I was listening to the stuff I was listening to at that time was like Blind Guardian and like lots of German power metal kind of stuff, and stuff with a narrative and like
Progress.
67 parts in each song,
Yeah.
and so I feel like that kind of influenced where a lot of the songwriting went with that band, and then later on with Undoing, like the idea of doing songs that were maybe traditionally more simple, but we kind of like ended up doing kind of longer songs with a lot more parts in them,
Gotcha.
you know.
That would have been Undoing was what, high school into college kind of situation for you?
It wasn't. I guess it was. I had just turned 19, I think, when I met Aaron at the Fisher Spooner show in Dallas, and that was
Wow.
he
That's
was
all. I love it.
he and yeah he and Nova, which were the original two band members of the Undoing, were there looking for a singer for their band. So they were like, "We're gonna find the craziest looking person here and ask them to be the singer for our band." and,
I love it.
and I was wearing a like a white suit, I think, and like had like a big afro, like, and so we met up and started jamming, and like they were really coming from what I felt like at the time. I was a little kind of worried by the scene. I was worried by church and my Christian friends,
Kind
and
of straight away. We could, me, I went through that definitely. So,
yeah,
mhm.
and the Christian hardcore scene. I mean, I have a lot of fond memories from that period, like 3 years, but like by that point, I was really ready to like be confrontational on
Yeah,
stage. So Undoing it started. It was a very annoying band. It was, and like nobody. I mean, we were trying to write the most annoying music possible,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then get shows at like places that would be easy to annoy, and just would play until they kicked us out every
Yeah.
single show.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, it really had like a spaz quality to it, which I think I was kind of drawn to that because I've heard bands like I'm a Robot and stuff like that, where it kind of has that real, it mindless self-indulgence and it had that real spazzy. I don't know. I guess it was just like the ADD or ADHD in me that was like just coming out in the music when I would listen to it. So I really was like, I really dig that. So did you have any
Right.
demos like before We Dig came out?
Yeah. So there was an original EP that was written before I came onto the band,
Okay.
and I think it was just called The Undoing of David Wright.
Yeah.
And that was just like a few like handmade copies by Aaron and Nova, like kind of guitar and keyboard demos. She played keyboard and he played guitar. They were listening to like the early New York stuff that was happening, like the Rapture and kind of
Well,
no wave revival kind of stuff. And I really felt at home with them creatively because it was very much like an improv thing where there were no wrong answers. Nobody was trying to be like, that's not going to be cool if we do that. Nobody was saying that in that group at all. So it was yeah, pretty spastic. Um, and so there was that. And then uh, Nova left the band shortly after I joined, and then we had um, Sean Jemison, who was another keyboardist that joined us after that, and then Shane English joined to play bass, and the four of us together wrote an EP that I, I don't have a copy of it on me right now, but it had I had found this like old book at a flea market of this guy with a gun up to his head, and we like rearranged the letters on it to say Undoing of David Wright, and
no, it's great.
that was that EP.
Yeah.
And that was definitely very much still in our annoying phase. Like I was doing this kind of screechy falsetto vocals, and it was a little more electronics heavy,
Good.
and that was fun. That was several months, and then after that it really became the trio that like became the real band, which is me and Aaron and Shane.
Yeah. What was um the aesthetic? Like you guys had a bit of a character vibe to it. What was kind of drawn onto you guys to kind of have that sort of aesthetic? It's real like flamboyant and a lot of makeup and fishnet. Like what kind of drew that out?
It was part of it was about being defying expectations as much as possible and being confrontational at shows. And I had just gone through a few years of, like being in bands with people where I was like, let's puke fake blood all over everything, and they'd be they'd be like, no, no, uh-uh,
Yeah.
and
Played out. It's played out. So
so like I really enjoyed being in and working music and do arranging performances where I mean every show, but even the smallest gig became an excuse to like come up with some sort of crazy stunt to pull off. And I remember one of our first gigs as a trio, like we like dressed in these like single colored outfits and then like took a snack break in the middle of the show to like eat fruit that like matched our outfits, and we just we just like do weird stuff
I
like
love it. That's great. That's
that.
fantastic.
I mean there was a lot of like I didn't like the idea that like the audience could feel comfortable at a show, like so there was a lot of, I don't know, we had a lot of energy and a lot of like a lot of us came from like Aaron was like a brilliant um like a honor student, and
Mhm.
so we would talk about books and movies constantly and try to work that into what we were doing. But it wasn't, it was chaos, mainly what
Yeah,
the aesthetic was about.
great.
And just we wanted people to see us and be kind of intrigued by something that was like I haven't, we didn't really want to. I mean, we wanted to wear our influences on our sleeves, I guess. I guess that probably became more apparent as we matured in our
Of course.
music songwriting abilities. But it was mainly about like creating something that you couldn't look away from,
Of course.
like
No,
the
it really
soundscape.
had that sort of like, it draws a lot of attention. And what I noticed with the logo, it kind of reminded me of like the New York no wave sort of cinema vibe that was kind of, yeah, it found intriguing with your guys's like logo. This again with the sort of vibrant aesthetics and stuff like that. It was just real like come to like I was just drawn to it, which, I think
Yeah.
really what you said about that. And even at the same time, you're kind of going come see us, come watch us, but we're gonna kind of push you away and kind of be like, you're not worthy of us quite yet. That kind of situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, we definitely like I at the time I really hated the idea that like in order to be authentic, you had to like dress down.
Right. No, of course.
And I wanted to fight that idea as much as possible. I think is where my head was at the time a lot. And I mean, as far as the aesthetics go, I mean, we were all big, especially me and Aaron, like, but all of us were like big cinema fans, and a lot of the aesthetic went back to like German expressionist films from the 20s, and then like kind of the like postmodern revival of that in the 80s. Pedro Almodovar's films like Cafe Flesh and his Cabinet of Caligari and remake and things like that.
That's
You know.
definitely. Now you moved to Denton at the time that you started recording We Dig with Fingers Crossed?
Yes, yeah, I had moved to go to school at UNT,
Yeah.
and Aaron and I had become roommates. And there was a summer where it was pretty. We kind of had. He was an honor student, so we got the good dorm rooms, the big ones. So Shane would just come and crash with us, and there was a summer where it was just kind of the three of us in this big dorm room, and that's where most of the songwriting for that "Dig with Fingers Crossed" happened.
Yeah, it's a fantastic album. What was the and did was that all home recording or did you guys go into a studio for that one?
We went and recorded. I wish I had remember his name right now. We recorded with a guy in Dallas.
I mean, I got the
Um,
I can look
yeah, let's figure out what.
engineering, Frank Stewart.
Yeah, Frank.
Is it Kefka Studio?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So he was set up with a pretty small place, and um we played him some old records that we liked, and we recorded it over like 3 days, and it was like we really hyped ourselves up for it and put as
Yeah,
much as
we
we
were
could into the performances on those recordings.
What records were you guys kind of going, like, kind of using as a reference point?
Mm. Um, the birthday party,
Okay.
um, um, Wire, and then like more modern kind of lo-fi shock rock stuff um like LeShock and Lightning Bolt and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's fantastic. What was I mean, with the concept of the album, the story behind it, how did that kind of come to you? And how did that kind
Well,
of help you draw and for the songwriting and all that?
well, we knew we wanted to do a concept album that was like one continuous story, and I actually brought this. This is see if you can see it.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a this is from the Library of Curious and Unusual Facts,
That's great.
Shadows of Death volume. You know, those old 70s
I know
encyclopedias,
those are great. Yeah.
And so this one was all about strange ways people died or like morbid stories.
Yeah.
And there's a great section in here on the Burke and Hare murders,
Yeah, yeah.
which were, there's been multiple horror movies written
Yeah.
about them as well.
Yeah.
But so we picked those stories and thought we'd kind of like write our version of that from that perspective.
No, it's
Um,
were you how much touring were you doing with We Dig when that came out?
um, well, after that came out is really the first time we went on like multi-day tour. I mean, we
Yeah.
had bands in Texas, like in Austin and Houston, that we would go play with.
Yeah.
Um, and then we booked a couple West Coast tours and kind of a Midwest tour. We never
Yeah.
did really did the like,
I was at the one at the High Point in '06, so I saw you guys perform live at High Point. Yeah.
oh, nice. Where
Yeah.
was that?
The High Point out in St. Louis.
Oh yeah. I was thinking about that
Oh,
gig the other
and
day.
hold on. There's the Bureau, and let me pull it up real quick if I can. It was Attractive and Popular.
Yeah.
So yeah, that
Yeah,
was a
that was one of the best gigs that we ever did on tour. That
oh
was a
good.
exciting night.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Do you have any like other stories about gigs where it's like this one stands out above and beyond all the others? Do you have anything like?
Um, I mean, there were a lot of fun ones. I mean, Joplin, Missouri was always fun
Yeah.
because those there was a bunch of high school kids listening to us there. So, and they had kind of like a youth group kind of venue that we would go play at, and there would be like 200 kids there,
Yeah.
and
That's fantastic.
and I remember one night after. I mean, back in those days, I mean, like money to like stay at a hotel on tour was just not a thing. We were either sleeping in the van or crashing at somebody's
That's someone
place.
else's house. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think one night there we like crashed with this one guy whose like parents had kind of left, and he was like left alone in his house without electricity on.
Oh,
So it was just like this really old house, like full of like 50 kids, and everybody's making out everywhere, and there's candles, and it was like one of the weirdest nights ever.
oh God, that would be uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was.
I'd be like, I love that you invited me to the house, but man, this is a very awkward environment to be.
Yeah. We were just kind of amazed at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Tell me about the recording or the music video when you did for We Dig. Did you guys record that like in a studio area, or did you kind of go outside? And what was the recording process of that?
I mean, that was recorded on the stage at Rubber Gloves in Denton. And we had just I mean, our budget was just spray paint and cardboard. So we spent a few days like
That was good. I mean, it
making,
got that sort of Ed Woodisk type of
yeah,
vibe or nostalgia to it. So I really loved it. Yeah.
thanks. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely what we were going for. Um, and we loved all of Ed Wood's films and Tim Burton's biopic about him, and thought all that stuff was hilarious.
Yeah.
Um, so we wanted to go for that, and then put our own glam rock vibe into it too. But we shot that I think most of the shooting, well, okay, so we did rent some costumes and we like went out into like a public park in the middle of the night and dug a grave, put a tombstone. And I remember that like halfway through it, like we see some like police lights and like apparently someone like called in, there's people with lanterns in the woods in the middle of the night. This was do you know where Goatman's Bridge is in Denton?
Mhm.
Yeah, it was out in the woods near there.
Oh
And a
wow.
police guy came up and he's like, "What are you guys doing?" He didn't know what to make of it, but
Yeah.
he just told us to,
Scram.
yeah, he told him, he was like, "Okay, have fun, kids."
Oh.
Um, there was some lady that had come out in her sweatpants with her kids and was like shining a flashlight at us, and she was singing, saying, "Are you real? Are you real?" She thought we were ghosts or something.
Oh my God. That is
And
fantastic.
yeah, it was good.
Oh, that is
I
great.
had like a top hat on and a kerosene
Yeah.
lantern and his cape, and
Are you
we
real?
had fun with
I
that.
can see some shakingly holding a flag. Are you
Yeah, with
real?
that she had like two kids like hanging onto her sweatpants
Oh
on either side.
God. That is a great story. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
After We Dig, is that when you started the Ghost Stories EP, or was there anything in between that process?
Well, there was a little bit of a lull there. So after Dig, like I was finishing school, I had got married,
Mhm.
and so I was kind of trying to get the next stages of my life in order. So we weren't really, and I think Aaron and Shane were working on other musical projects some too. So it was kind of hard to like be as close as we were. I mean, we were, but like I mean, during those, because there was like 4 years between the Ghost Stories EP and the Dig with Fingers Crossed
Oh, really?
album.
Okay. Wow.
So it was like 2003 and then 2007.
Oh,
So
okay. Gotcha.
um so I had like finished school, I got a job in Plano and like moved out of Denton and then was coming up to Denton quite often to um practice with them and stuff. And it was really like during that period when I was coming back up to Denton to like practice that we wrote that EP. And that was really our kind of like back from hiatus sort of album. And we did like a really big show. It was kind of like our first show in like a year, which was a really long time for us for a band that was like playing out multiple times a month together
Yeah.
for a long time. And so I that's almost kind of like the farewell project for the whole band,
The Tales of the Eighth, when did that come in?
That was before that was something we recorded 2006-ish, or
Okay, so
2005-ish.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got my numbers all mixed up. So
Oh,
that,
that's all right because that didn't get kind
or
of
yeah,
released um until after kind of we broke up.
yeah,
We were kind of sitting on the recordings for a while.
right.
And that was recorded by John Congleton and we had fun with that one. It didn't have quite the same energy that the earlier recordings did, but um it wasn't as raw production wise, but there's some songs on there that I really like. At the
Great.
same.
Like Exotica. I think you guys were trying to build something with that. What was the kind of the story behind Exotica? And then there was like a music video, and then there was kind of like a short. What were you trying to extend it a little bit more, or was that kind of where you were at with Exotica?
I mean, that was just me finding excuses to like do my own thing for like film school projects, so it
Oh,
was
that's cool. Yeah.
that was all those were all assignments for my um video production classes
Right.
at the time.
Well, I know there was with Tales of the Eighth, there was this sort of narrative of, was it like a pirates?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
I mean going back to like obsessions with like Atlantis stories and those conspiracy documentaries about that, that was something that we talked about a lot, especially me and Aaron, like arguing about where where Plato's references to Atlantis came from.
Yeah.
And so that was the theme for that album because we knew we wanted to do another concept album. So it's about and then there was this artist, the artist who did our illustrations for Dig with Fingers Crossed, John Finn. We had him play the part of the captain of the ship in
Yeah.
the Tales of the Eighth
Yeah.
album.
Great.
And so he kind of became the character too. So, but uh, it was a alternate Odyssey sort of story about uh, that also kind of went back to like 19th century literature, like Moby Dick
That's great.
and stories like that. So it was kind of like our version of the Odyssey and Moby Dick, and made by weird punk kids from Tenton,
Oh, that's okay. I noticed with Exotica, you start is when you kind of started dabbling in your sort of video synthesizer work. Was that something beforehand where you kind of dabble in it and kind of was like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna sprinkle this in the music video? Tell me about that.
Oh yeah. I mean, so there's a lot of like kind of chroma key and doubled up stuff there.
Hmm.
A lot of it was just experimenting with just the time and space of the screen, and the a lot of the background footage comes from the film The Mysterious Island from the 50s. So the Jules Verne adaptation where they fight the giant crab and there's a volcano. It's a sequel to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, the story. And So I don't know. I mean, it was just a lot of it was just kind of manic creativity around getting a project done
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
more
get
than
it.
intentional.
Yeah.
Um, Wanted to just put something on screen that was unexpected.
Oh, it was great. And I think that really kind of started a path, I think, because um you were doing if I'm kind of taking things from what I read online. Were you trying to dabble in other music projects? I know you did one with your wife.
Oh yeah,
Very
yeah, I did.
short lived kind of thing.
That was much later on, like I guess we did that 2013,
Mhm.
2014, called Wiving. But
Yep.
that was that was during a pretty tumultuous time in my life. And we wrote that music together as a way of kind of like processing and understanding what all of that was.
Well, I came across that because they were they brought it up with an LGBTQ, and I didn't know if that somehow was even linked or did they just throw it on there because it was.
Oh yeah, I mean, I identify as transgender,
Oh,
and
okay. All right, cool.
there was a I mean, it's something I don't really bring up or talk
That's okay.
about much
You don't
anymore. But there was 3 years when I identified full time as a woman,
need.
and I kind of, I guess I'm gender fluid. After that, I went back into a masculine presenting, you know, gender presentation.
Right.
But queer stuff has always been a part of what I've been doing creatively.
So no, it really came out through at least with the character of the Undoing of David Wright. Like again, I noticed because it was a real flamboyant kind of aesthetic to it. I guess there's like a character base or whatever that might have been at the time. I don't know. I was just drawn to it. I thought it was great. Like you felt like it just felt like I'm here. I'm out. It was wonderful. That's what I think. You know what I'm saying? So,
Hey.
you know, um, and then did you do any other projects? Electronic Warfare, War Wizards, and
Oh
Fantasties?
yeah. I mean, there was definitely a period uh, of like short-lived side projects.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was fun. I mean, part of that, like in the later MySpace days, it was part of like creating things is to like create these like identities for different projects and kind of do a couple songs with a couple people and that was just enough.
Yeah, no, yeah. Believe me, I know.
With War Wizards was great. The that was I got to after I had moved to Dallas for that one job, I began like practicing with Wands Dover of like Mazinga Phaser, and who had been like a mentor of mine for years. He's a wonderful guy and incredible musician. And then that was also with Sean Monk from the Silk Stocking.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that band.
Mhm. Yeah.
So the three of us like wanted to make something really loud.
Yeah.
So we did a few shows with that, and and that was fun. And then what was the other one you mentioned? Oh,
Uh,
electronic warfare.
I
Yeah,
see
that was
Warfare, War
with
Wizard, Tasty. Yeah.
Andrew Hilburn, of the Noise Project Mistress, and I think he's done some other things since. And um, Andrew was another mentor of mine who kind of like he interviewed us. He did a couple writing pieces on the Undoing
Yeah.
when we were around, and he was uh yeah, that one was fun. You know, we did a couple shows with that, and I think I took a lot of the like microKORG recordings he had made and made that EP out of them. And I still like some of the tracks on there quite a bit.
Yeah. I
But that
wish.
was the first time when someone else had wrote the lyrics that I was performing, which was also fun.
Yeah. No, it's great. I wish I could still be able to find a lot of those. Unfortunately, if you post everything on MySpace, it's like poof, gone. It drives me
Yeah.
nuts. So, but you worked at Funimation for about a year. What was that?
Yeah. Was maybe almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And that was with quite a few people from the Denton music scene
Yeah.
were there working with me. Scott Porter of Record Hop and others.
Cool. And then you worked at Switched On in Austin. How was that working with a lot of, is that like a lot of analog synthesizer repairs or?
Yeah, so Chad Allen from Zomzoms,
Yeah.
the keyboardist, he and I still work together. He works with me
Cool.
with at LZX as our
Oh,
sales
really?
and customer support person. So we're still pretty close. But in 2008 or 2009, he was talking about starting a synthesizer store. And this was before there were really any like, there was maybe like one or two synthesizer specialty
Right.
retail shops around. It was before the kind of the Eurorack synthesis boom came and so on. But he um you know we I moved down there to help him and his business partners set up that shop as their kind of lead repair technician.
Oh,
So I
okay.
got to stick my nose in a whole lot of synthesizers during that time. And
I love that type of gear. Did you run into anybody that was like any, a lot of bands will use analog synthesizers. Anybody come in the shop and you're like, oh my God, that's, John
oh,
Fox or that's, whatever,
I mean, it was everybody from the Austin music scene and
Right.
lots of people from the DFW music scene were
Good
kind of
job.
closely involved with that quite a bit. Um, I, you know, a lot of friends like Tyler Walker from um, the Pointy Shoe Factory
Yeah, yeah.
um, helped repair a bunch of his synthesizers. I also worked with him in Funimation, and then there were I don't know. I don't think there were any like big celebrity moments for me while I
I
was there.
didn't know if there was
I was
like,
mostly in the
oh,
shop while rather
Gary
than in the
Newman comes
retail
in and needs
space.
a synthesizer repair or something like that.
There's been some weird celebrity moments with LZX.
That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna ask. Yeah. Do you have anything like that?
We got to go hang out with My Bloody Valentine when they came to Dallas in like
Oh, okay.
2015. That was fun. And one of their roadies was a big video synth person, and then their drummer um, was doing like video loops for the show that they had composed, and
Yeah.
that was a fun night. And then I got to meet Kevin Key and the Skinny Puppy Show
Oh,
2014 or
I'm
so.
a
And
big Skinny Puppy fan. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, that was definitely bucket list because I've been a big fan of Kevin for a long time, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, do you follow his podcast on online on his
I
on YouTube?
haven't listened to it,
Because
but
he's got like a Patreon, but then he'll kind of just put stuff out on YouTube where he just has these extensive long interviews, or he'll like just geek out like he did one on Too Dark Park, where he just kind of broke it all down and he's like, here's the sample for this, and here's that, like he's digging into the
mm,
keyboards and computers and stuff and being like, here's how I sampled it. Like it was just it's a total geek moment. If you get a
yeah,
chance, look it up, dude. You're gonna love it. You're gonna
yeah,
absolutely.
he's definitely a synthesizer nerd,
Hmm.
um, and incredibly talented, you know. But yeah, it was a trip, like
Yeah.
watching Ogre like wiping the fake blood off of his knives backstage and stuff. I was like, "What? Where are we right now?"
Right. What year was that when that was going down? Which tour?
Um, that would have been maybe 2014 or 2015,
I think
maybe
that's the one.
2013.
That was that when Weapons came out, I think.
Yeah,
That
I
sounds.
don't remember. I missed their last gig here, the farewell tour.
I know I wanted to go. The closest one I could have gone to was Chicago at the Metro. It was on my birthday, but I just didn't have the time nor the money, you know. And you
Yeah,
understand if you're a dad and you got kids, and it's just like,
yeah,
it's you working home, like, So I
yeah.
totally get it. So, what was Dark Place Manufacturing?
That was that's the business I moved to Portland to work for when we moved here. So they're a contract manufacturer of Eurorack synthesizers, and I was invited. Well, first started when they started manufacturing one of my synthesizer modules, and that was, that's a good segue question because um, the Cyrus, the guy um, who had invited me to come to that Skinny Puppy show, he was doing synthesis for the opening act, which was DJ MRX with um, the Nitareb, Doug, was that his name? I'm trying to know,
It's okay.
bad memory of names right now, but
I had the same thing.
um, he was the one who invited me to that show, and then later he introduced me to Dark Place Manufacturing, and they started helping me build one of my synthesizer modules. And then we got along well, and so I was invited to come up here and work as their production manager here in Portland. So I was doing that part time when we first moved here,
Yeah.
in addition to doing the LZX stuff.
So you got both of those. You do Dark Place and LZX at the same time.
I did for 2 years.
Oh, you
Now,
did.
now I just do LZX full time.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I don't know. I feel like I'm bouncing back and forth. What was the eighth continent? Yeah, in is it Dallas?
No, that was in
Oh,
Denton.
Art Space. Oh, in Denton. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my basement of the house I rented in Denton.
Oh, really? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it was I mean, and that was also part of the Eighth Continent album. Like it was like a physical space, like as well as a concept for the album.
Yeah,
But
sure.
no, there was, I think it was 2006 was like there were like uh, at least half a dozen house show venues
Yeah.
doing shows multiple times a week in Denton. So like there was almost no need for any
Right.
any venues to stay open. So those were very well booked and a lot of good memories doing shows in those places.
No.
Um, but we like built a stage in the basement and he had this Irish landlord that was really cool about it, you know. And the um, we use a PA that we use for Undoing of David Wright to do shows down there.
Yeah. That's awesome. What was it like working with Neon Indians? I know you did a
Oh.
music video, and then I think you did a live, like background, like a visual art.
Yeah. So during that period when I was living in Plano, I was coming up to Denton pretty often, and Alan was very young at that time.
Yeah.
I don't know. And he was really sweet guy, and we became good friends. And he would hit me up for, you know, he always had a bunch of questions about music production and software and stuff. And he quickly learned all of that and kind of eclipsed everything I knew about it pretty quick. And then he had moved away from Denton after that, which is when he was starting to work on the Neon Indian project. And, you know, we could tell it was going to be kind of big whenever that album came out. Like, and he wanted to get me involved at that time. So he flew me up to New York to do live visuals for kind of their first few shows as a band on stage, you know, rather than just his solo recordings.
Yeah.
And that was fun. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
And when I was reading about it, it was just like that sounds amazing. So it's what a neat opportunity to be part of for something that's, I mean, he was becoming like massive, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Great music and all that. I think that's great. Um, and when did you start working for LZX?
Um, I mean, LZX started as a project,
Yeah.
kind of 2008, as just kind of like a brand name to print on my DIY projects, like that I was doing with electronics. So I wanted the like front panels and control interfaces of my DIY synthesizers to look kind of polished and branded. So that's where it started. And then 2011, well, it started there like 2007 or so. And then I met up with my partner, Ed Leckie, in Sydney, Australia, who we started working on a video synthesizer together.
Yeah.
And we did that from 2008 to 2010 until like releasing our first modules in 2011.
Yeah.
And so a lot of work. That's when it kind of became a big brand.
Yeah,
And
it
then
really has.
and we were kind of right there at the beginning of the URX synthesizer wave, which really peaked in like 2015, 2017. Um, and it's still growing strong, really.
I know, I'm amazed. That was your like that was your baby and you grew it into wow, that's amazing.
It's been cool, and yeah, a lot of people have been involved in making that a success.
Yeah.
Also, my partner Jonah Lang, that I still work with up here in Portland. He was also I met him as a camera operator on that first Undoing music video that we were talking about earlier, and so we've been kind of creative confidants ever since. You
Great.
know,
Yeah. Wow. That's fantastic. Wife and kids, how's all that going along?
well, it's good. It happens fast.
Yes, it does. How old are
I
your
had
kids? Hmm.
my kids are 19, 17, and 12, I think. I might be a year off on there somewhere.
That's okay, because my 15, 13, and 9. So all
You're,
girls. All girls.
yours? Oh, congratulations. That's awesome.
No, but do you feel like the things that you like, do you feel like parts of you are kind of being passed down, like you see elements of yourself like in your kids and stuff, anything that really stands out where it's like, oh, this kid has an obsession with this or anything like that?
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, and you always, I think it's probably your 30s when you become self-aware of how similar you are to your own parents in those
Oh
sort
my
of
God,
ways.
yeah. It's been a real yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a real eye opener because even me, I'm just like, I'll be thinking, I'm like, oh my God, I used to do that. And then I was like, I wish I can just apologize to my parents for how I used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I definitely like I don't know, my son Loki, he's definitely as much of like a computer, dork as I was at his age. And he's he's really into like he's really into like lost media and stuff, but it's his generation stuff, which is old Flash cartoons and things like that. And I'm like, you don't really understand how that was your dad's path too, yeah, but you will. um, and then my my daughters are both very into music of various types.
Mhm.
Kat
Yep.
is starting to really go to shows for a lot this year, and it's been good to encourage that, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. My daughter, I wanted to take her to a show, but she was like, "Oh, I want to go to the, I guess Suicide Boys, the rap group or whatever." So I was like, "All right." So we got that coming up in October, but then the night before, Under Oath was supposed to be at the pageant playing, like their full album, whatever one came out 20 years ago. I was like, oh, so it's just like, all right, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go for the kids, you know what I'm saying? And then I got Macy's my middle child. She loves Godzilla, um,
Nice.
and just obsessed with a lot of that anime and Godzilla and stuff. The young one, she's still kind of figuring out her quirks and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely the older two. I see a lot of these like, between music and movies and stuff that they watch, it's just like, oh, and then same dialogue and same way of talking, and it's just like, it's just crazy how that happens. So I feel like
Yeah,
I'm
it is.
speaking like it's like next week is Father's Day, so it's like might as well bring it up. So,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Have there ever been talks about bringing back Undoing or any of the other projects?
Mm, I mean, not really. I mean, part of it's geography.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I've, Shane has gone on to do um, many incredible music projects since then. He's played in a lot of bands, and he's in Austin now. I'm not sure where Aaron is. I haven't talked to him in several years.
Mhm.
He was going through some personal health issues last time that I talked to him, so I hope he's doing well.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I mean, I've been in a past few years just focusing on my music or my business, not my music. But I'd like to do a solo album or something in my 40s. I
Right,
turned
yeah,
40 this year.
try and see if we can pull that one out. I did that where recently I put out an album where I was influenced by like 70s Giallo music. It's
Hmm.
been a while because I used to make, dancier stuff and whatever, doing remixes of pop, artists and this, that, and the other. But I was way for it for so long just because I'm focusing on work and family and job and stuff. And I was just watching, I think it was like Christmas break. I was watching a lot of like 70s Giallo movies and I was like, oh, that would be cool. So I just kind of started researching all the old instruments that they were using and stuff like that, a lot of the artists, and just kind of regurgitated out a Giallo album. So,
No,
but
that's
no,
great.
I did it. No, that's cool, man. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Is there anything else you want to add or
Not
anything?
really. You've been pretty exhausted.
Good. I know because I was digging a lot. I was just kind of trying to do what I can with other sites and stuff. And I guess Dallas really likes talking about you. That's what I noticed. So you got a
Yeah,
lot
for a while
of
they did.
Dallas. Yeah.
For a while they did. And
Yeah.
it's weird, some of those things that like were there like in that first 10 decades of the millennium that just isn't on the internet anymore or is harder to find.
No. Believe me, I understand. And it was trying to get We Dig with Fingers Crossed. Are you able to find a way of putting that out online? Because the only one I saw, I have the cover art. My CD got broke. The only one I found was some guy ended up uploading the entire album on, YouTube. And I was like, oh, that's kind of the only one we can find at this point. Have you tried contacting anybody, see if they got the old masters?
Um, Not really. I mean, I think I saw the one on YouTube, and then I was pointed out that it's available on SoulSeek and a couple people's
Is it?
ears. Yeah.
Have
So
you
that
thought
might
about
be.
just taking it and just putting it out on Bandcamp, some way, one way or another?
Yeah, I mean, I should.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
okay. No, I get it. I know you're like, I'd love to, just a little busy, I get it. So,
But I mean, I don't even know that I have a copy of it anymore.
okay.
A lot of the copies were kept by the record label, and so I don't really know where they are.
No,
but
I get it. No, it's great.
but I've I've seen them pop up on Amazon or in used bookstores and stuff a couple times.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to like find one. I think I even tried looking on like eBay, and I was like maybe someone will drop it on there, but like I said, at least it'd be nice to get like an actual physical copy of it like I used to, because man, I played that thing. It stayed in my car stereo for months and months. I was bouncing that between Femme Fatality and Zomzoms and you guys. It was just like chum 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 chum, just in and so I was like, I played it to death, and I don't know, somewhere in transitioning, it somehow got overly scratched or broke or
Yeah.
something. It just did not start playing, and I was like, oh man. So
I've heard that from a few people, and thanks for that.
yeah.
It was definitely a time and a place and kind of a movement for like
What?
a lot of us,
Brought up Zolo, which it's a whole concept that I didn't even know existed. Was that you guys, or did you kind of figure out there, pioneer that, or was that just something you heard and were like, okay, this seems about right?
That's the thing. So it was the concept of Zolo came from a radio show that was actually here in Portland that this guy Terry Sharkey kind of had this theory of like a style of music that kind of defied time and genre type about like that was kind of ingrained with its visual impression and I think Chad Allen from Zomzoms really kind of uh, was part of listening to that and are discovering that radio show because he's from here in Portland. And So he kind of brought that very kind of literally into the Zomzoms project. So Zomzoms is probably the most Zolo band.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I know.
Very
Once I looked that up, it was like it was definitely Zomzoms, and then you guys were kind of like as like an additional kind of situation.
yeah, I think the energy of Zolo really kind of described well like the parts of Undoing that weren't like straight from the birthday party or death rock or punk in general,
No,
which is just the manic silly part of it,
yeah. Was most of your stuff, was there any local radio play, or was that all just online, MySpace and stuff?
Um, I don't. I mean, we performed on community radio a couple times
Oh,
in
cool. That
Dallas.
would have been cool to hear.
At what was the KNON was the station,
Yeah.
and that was fun. You know.
Yeah. I've been through that where I was asked to do a local radio, and it was uh the radio station was linked to a storage unit business, which was weird. It was really far out there. It was one of those just real small local things, and they asked me to be part of and it was a real and really weird environment. Was the DJ a little bit more like kind of hip to what you guys are doing? Because the one I did, the guy was just like, "So I don't know anything about you, so tell me everything." It was just like, "Whoa!" So you guys have no idea like why I'm even here, type situation.
Well, we had a rule that we could not say a truth on the radio.
Oh,
Like we would make up the most outrageous answers to every question that we were
yeah.
asked in that situation. I think there was like this long-winded story about Aaron and I meeting in a tent city and all.
I love that. That's fantastic.
That was we were just having fun.
That's great. Well, I don't think I have anything else. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on my podcast. Truly, you and the Undoing have been a major influence on my life, and I still go back to it, and it's just one of those. If I could find it, I still have the pen. Like when I bought the album online, it came with a little white pen with your guys' logo on it, and
Oh,
it was
nice.
on my bag for the longest time, my work bag, and somewhere again, things get lost in transitioning. So. But thank you for being on my podcast. I really appreciate
You're welcome, Justin. It was a
it.
great time.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.